In the play, there's some very juicy stuff where people scream at each other for shagging other people, and the women are furious, the men become furious, and I feel like that is quite Latin. I could be being really racist here and cliched, but it felt they were very at home with it and they tuned into it. There's a bit where one of the characters says, well, their son walks in on his wife giving a blowjob in the kitchen to another man, and the audience last night burst out laughing at this image and he's actually saying, it was fair, I cheated on her. She was just getting her own back, and an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It actually healed us. It sort of made things feel fair, and the audience were laughing at that, and I think that's because they recognised it.
The play also deals with the subject of the law and of lawyers, and you've already mentioned it, that in the case of sexual violence the law needs to know who was right and who was wrong, and there isn't really any room for nuance. Why did you choose to tackle the subject in the context of lawyers?
I was just really interested in the way that people use language in the courtroom, and I was thinking, public and private. I just went and sat in some court cases and I thought, wow, there are rules to how you can ask your questions. So literally, when you are cross-examining, you have to frame your questions in such a way that the person can only answer yes or no. So you went to see him that night, didn't you? Then when you're doing an examination in chief, I think it's called, you're asking open questions. So where do you live? What's your name? How old are you? So you can answer whatever you like, basically. So there are these two different approaches, and I just thought, wow, if you were a lawyer and you went home and you were married to a lawyer and you think your lawyer wife or husband has been cheating on you, what would happen if you brought those structures into your home, that you asked them closed questions? You've been doing this, haven't you? How can I use those echoes of the courtroom without it being cheesy courtroom drama at home? I just think it's interesting the way that words are used. And there's a scene in the play where two lawyers are sort of slightly flirting with someone, and they start to use the techniques that they use in a courtroom on one another. And that I find really electric. I don't know why. I think because the text is doing two things at the same time. They're attacking one another and they're illustrating their point of this is how we do it. So it's got a double juiciness. So I suppose that's why I chose lawyers. And then, of course, once I'd chosen that, I thought, well, one of these lawyers has got to become a rapist. That's what I want to explore. Lawyers never think that they think that they're kind of above, generally speaking, the people they're defending. They don't look at them and go, gosh, that could so easily be me, apart from, as one lawyer said to me, the cases of dangerous driving. He thought, I should stop speeding, I should stop drink driving, and he could totally see himself in that scenario, but not as a kind of a gang-related stabber or a rapist. But I feel like, as an our Daily Mail story, these lawyers could very easily end up murderers and rapists, and the play is sort of designed to show that from the first scene. English lawyers talk about their clients in the first person. They say, what are you up to at the moment? Oh, I've been raping. Oh, right, who have you been raping? Pensioners. Yeah, I tie them up and I fuck them and then I nick their stuff. That's the way they talk about them in their first person, and yet they are so removed from actually thinking of themselves in the first person. So I wanted to show them literally become the first person. Someone is accused of raping their wife.
To take that into the private sphere of a romantic relationship makes the area of love and sex and relationships also seem like a battle. Is that how you perceive it?
Yes, it is a bit, yeah. Yeah, I think it can be a battleground, and especially when marriages go wrong, I feel like people go a bit mad and they start to use whatever they can lay their hands on to hurt the other person, because we become kind of irrational when we're hurting, and that's very interesting to watch, actually, and to write. I've not really been writing the kind of relationships where it's all happy and there's no fighting.
A ver, Edu, ¿verdad o atrevimiento?
Verdad.
¿Dónde estabas ayer a las 3:30 de la tarde?
Estaba en el juzgado. Luego fui a tomar algo con Alex.
¿Y por qué no me atendiste el teléfono?
Es una pregunta, porque estaba en silencio.
¿Y cuánto tardaste en ver el teléfono?
Unas 2 horas.
¿Tú 2 horas sin mirar el teléfono?
Exacto.
Dime la verdad, Edu.
Te la he dicho.
Atrévete a decirme la verdad.
Te la he dicho, Kitty.
Chicos, vamos a dejarlo, esto se pone feo.
What is the parallel between rape in your story and adultery?
I always feel a bit uneasy when I make that parallel, because I'm aware that I wouldn't want to belittle rape. I'm worried about making the connection, but I feel like there is in this play there's an echo definitely with the adultery, that it's a sort of violence on the marriage that is suffered sometimes silently and then that's taken as consent. And I see that, I've seen that in other people's marriages, and there's this word in the law, duress, that you can say yes and not mean it because someone's holding a knife up to your throat. And I feel like some people are under duress in their marriages. They nod certain things through because they're under duress. A wife cheats on her husband as a form of revenge in the play, and I was really fascinated by that as well, because the Weinstein thing, some of these crimes are old crimes and yet the passion is still really hot to have revenge later. And in the play, someone is cheated on 5 years ago and then they take their revenge 5 years later by cheating themselves. This is a wife's revenge that she takes. And yes, she can violate the marriage in her own way, and she uses that power. And she is one of the characters in the play who isn't a lawyer. And I wanted to show how someone who isn't a lawyer can become incredibly, almost more legalistic than the lawyers about justice. It's like Merchant of Venice, a pound of flesh that she will take it. And actually, she's the most punitive of them all. I wanted to see that.
Does justice equate to vengeance?
Well, that's one of the things that the play is sort of asking and trying to explore, yeah.
Has dicho que nunca te he pedido perdón.
Nunca lo has hecho.
¿Y tú? ¿Me has perdonado alguna vez? ¿De verdad?
No.
To what extent then does this play leave it to the audience to perform the role of judge and jury?
I hope it really does leave it to the audience, because I wouldn't want to have a play where I say this is what you're meant to think and so on. But talking to lawyers when I was researching the play, the thing that made them incredibly uneasy was the way that vengeance and revenge is seeping into the justice system in victims' impact statements. They said the victim should have no part in the exacting of punishment, because then it becomes about vengeance, and vengeance is not inherently just. It becomes emotional, it becomes tit for tat, and that's not what the law is about. So lawyers have their own views on that, because it can't be about vengeance, the law. And actually someone says that in the play, and yet we need it. We need vengeance as humans.
I believe you're currently working on a play about the composer Johann Sebastian Bach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm still researching it, and it's such an enormous mountain of a topic, and he's such a mountain of a talent. And the thing is, so little was written by him in terms of letters or diaries. There's very little to go on like that. So I'm going to have to create a lot of it from my imagination. But before then, I'm directing a play that I wrote at the National. So that is actually the thing that's going to come out first, and that's in the autumn.
And what's that about?
It's about how do we become parents? How do you have a baby as a woman, basically.
Writer and director Nina Rain, ending this edition of North by Southwest on Radio Exterior, Radio Nacional de España. This program is brought to you in collaboration with the British Council, the United Kingdom's official organisation for cultural relations and educational opportunities, working in 110 countries around the world. Find out more about their cultural program in Spain at britishcouncil.es. Consent continues at the Teatro Valle Inclán in Madrid until the 29th of April, directed by Magui Mira and starring David Lorente, Nieve de Medina, María Morales, Jesús Noguero, Candela Peña, Pera Ponce and Clara Sanchez. We'll be back soon with more on culture from Spain, but for now, it's goodbye from me, Nicholas Jackson.
We're going to leave you now with some music on the English language broadcast of Radio Exterior de España to continue our celebration of International Women's Day. Calling Out is a mixture of house, soul and disco created by British DJ Sophie Lloyd together with soul trio James Brown. According to Sophie Lloyd, the song provides a heavy dose of happiness to combat the cold of winter and the constant bad news from around the world.
Who knows all about me?